Hey y'all, I'm Carolina Tony. Today the road brings me to the former home of plantation owner William Ellison. We are near Sumter, South Carolina. William Ellison was not only a plantation owner and owned slaves. William Ellison was black and a very wealthy man in the early 1800s of South Carolina. Today we are going to look around his home, visit his church and his grave, and learn a little bit about William Ellison. And we'll get started right after this station identification. In 1790, April Ellison was born to two black slave parents owned by white slave owner William Ellison in Fairfield County near Williamsburg, South Carolina. Sometime around 1802, young April began an apprenticeship with William McCrate, a gin maker in Winsboro. During his apprenticeship, he learned how to be a blacksmith, machinist, and carpenter. Reading, accounting, and bookwork were also skills he acquired, while learning to be a master gin builder. In 1816, April was granted his freedom by William Ellison in the Fairfield district at age 26. Shortly after, April legally changed his name to William Ellison after his former master, who was possibly his father. Because of laws, the slave, with three men as witnesses, had to certify that they would be able to port themselves. William Ellison moved to Stateburg near Sumter and began his life as a gin maker and planter. The purpose of this video is not to perpetuate slavery, but to learn history. And as Patrick Henry said, unless we study our past, we are doomed to repeat it. All of the information in this video can be documented. However, I may have a few details not 100% right. William Ellison's home was built somewhere between 1814 and 1816. He purchased it from the South Carolina governor, Stephen Miller, in 1838. Ellison had 37 slaves, while his sons owned others. He was one of about 180 black slave masters in South Carolina, but he was one of the largest slave owners and most wealthy, primarily from the cotton gin business. I had read that he was a fairly ruthless person when it came to his slaves, often selling off the female children because they were of no use to his cotton gin business. This building was the law office of Stephen Miller when Stephen Miller lived there. And right behind it, the carriage house. Both of these are original buildings, as well as the house, but it's been added on to. When Ellison purchased the house from Stephen Miller, he purchased 800 acres. Prior to that, he had already bought the land from Thomas Sumter. I was told that William Ellison had experimented with silkworms in this building, but I have not seen that written anywhere. This is the well house, the very well house that William Ellison would come to take a drink out of. And there's water still in it today. I might add, this is private property, and I had to get special permission to go on the property, and they do not like people snooping around. The house has been added on to several times over the hundreds of years. William Ellison's cotton gin business was at the end of Gardner's Ferry Road on the northeast corner of the property, right in these woods. And I was told that USC was going to be doing some excavation soon. That's the old road itself, and there's where the shop would have been. When the Civil War broke out, Ellison began growing food for the Confederacy as well as cotton. This is a plantation spinner. This combined the operations of a cotton gin, carding machine, and a spinning wheel. With a single hand crank operation, a spin ginner in one day could turn raw cotton into a pod enough to spin yarn to make 7 to 10 yards of cloth, 1 yard wide. By 1845, there were more than 25,000 of these machines used in southern plantations, and they sold for around $100. This saw blade came from a cotton gin invented by William Ellison, used until after the war between the states. Right next door to William Ellison's plantation house is this smaller version that he had built for his daughter. You can imagine in those days it was really hard being a black person in the United States. But Ellison had acquired the ability to avoid, to offend the white people in the area, so much that Ellison and his family worshiped at the Holy Cross Episcopal Church. At that time, poor people and black people had to sit in the loft, but Ellison and his family, they were able to sit downstairs on the main floor and even had their own family pew at the rear of the main floor. By 1860, he owned nearly 900 acres of land and 63 slaves, which he conservatively valued at $53,000. Here is the tomb of Joel Roberts Poinsett, 1799 to 1851. He was born in Charleston. He was a statesman, a diplomat, an author, and a naturalist. He was educated in medicine, military science, and law. Also, the poinsettia flower that everyone uses at Christmas time to decorate with was named after Joel Poinsett. He was also an ambassador to Mexico around 1829, and he was an amateur botanist, and he liked to plant so much that he sent some back home to South Carolina, where he grew them in his greenhouse and introduced them to the United States. The Ellison Cemetery is right off of Gardner's Ferry Road, right adjacent to the plantation house. Ellison and his wife Matilda, that he married When he was 21 and she was 16, they had several children, and many of them are buried here. This would have been one of his sons, and this is William Ellison's grave.
This is the grave of William Ellison.
At his death, Ellison had provided for dividing his property, including over 60 slaves among his surviving daughters and sons. And a daughter that he had sold, he left her $500. All right, it's beginning to rain a little bit, and we are going to end our adventure here at the Ellison Family Cemetery. I hope you have found this video very educational and informative. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give me a big old thumbs up. Be sure to share this video with your family and friends. And until next time, y'all have a good day.